Good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to this week's special edition of Open Mic with my guest for this evening, Mr. Yacoub Ali El-Hillo. He is the Regional Director for Africa at the UN Development Coordination Office, and he is heading the delegation for the Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework that has been launched here in Eritrea together with the UN country team. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Mr.
Rafaelle.
Yacoub. Okay, so can you explain when and how the new cooperation framework was launched, and what was your main message to the people of Eritrea when the UN and the government launched it together?
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak to you and through your outlet to the people of Eritrea. We arrived in Asmara on Monday. It was a warm welcome that we received from the government of the state of Eritrea. And the chief purpose, as you have rightly indicated, was for us to join the launch on Tuesday of the new United Nations Strategic Development Cooperation Framework with the state of Eritrea. This launch took place on Tuesday here in Asmara, and it was, of course, a beginning of a very full program of engagement that we've been having since then with senior government officials, with development partners. We also had the opportunity to travel out of Asmara and visit sites where development programs have been implemented. So this team that has traveled from the regional headquarters of quite a number of UN agencies, funds and programs comprises about 10 or 11 regional directors or their representatives. And I think this shows also the importance of Eritrea, both people and government, for the United Nations. This framework is going to guide the collective efforts of the United Nations development system over the next 5 years in our partnership with the state of Eritrea, working to provide that package of expert support in different sectors according to the development vision of Eritrea. So it's an important framework that will be put to good use immediately. It's basic services, support, and many other areas which fall squarely under the development vision of Eritrea. It's great to be here.
So, Mr. Yacoub, can you summarize the critical elements of the cooperation framework?
Yes, the cooperation framework is, as I said just now, captures the collective contribution by the United Nations to work with the government and people of Eritrea in Eritrea's quest to realize the sustainable development goals. And in that context, you will have programs for basic service delivery support. You will have programs for capacity development. You will have programs also related to tapping Eritrea's natural resources that will contribute, of course, to supporting sectors such as health, education, and other basic services that the government is providing to the people of Eritrea. This is a framework that is also used with other countries, other member states of the United Nations system. We're very excited about this one here in Eritrea because it was developed over the last several months in a highly consultative process with the government of Eritrea. And the priorities that have now been agreed are very much nationally led, nationally owned, and it is now our responsibility at the United Nations to ensure that all the capacities required, all the resources required to deliver on this package of partnership over the next 5 years. This runs from 2022 to 2026. It is now our responsibility to ensure that what we committed to do in this partnership with the government of Eritrea gets delivered.
Mr. Yacoub, you've also interacted and held briefings with various line ministries. How did the meetings go?
Excellent. These were very constructive discussions we've had, very open and frank and honest discussions. We've witnessed all readiness on the part of the different ministries and other senior government officials that we have had the honor of meeting with to continue building on all the cooperation that has been taking place between Eritrea and the United Nations and committing, both of us, and pledging to build on that and take this partnership to an even higher and more strategic level. We are very gratified and very satisfied by the spirit with which these discussions took place, but also it is important for me to say that we were very encouraged by the clarity of the vision. You can almost say the unique vision for development that Eritrea has adopted, and which offers a number of good practices that we at the United Nations also think these are lessons to be learned and maybe replicated elsewhere. The cooperation framework, as I mentioned earlier, discusses a number of issues. Climate change, for example, is one key area where the space is going to be created for cooperation and transfer of expertise and knowledge to grow the programs that Eritrea has already implemented in order to adapt, but also in order to address the challenges posed by climate change. One of our field visits that took us to Areza was to actually witness a program that has already been completed. It's a solar site, solar power plant that has been implemented in partnership between the government of Eritrea, the European Union, and the United Nations Development Program. This plant is now providing electricity to about 28 villages, I believe, plus the urban center itself, Areza, providing electricity to 30,000 people directly, in addition to about 10 to 15,000 people who are indirectly benefiting from the power supply in schools, in clinics, and so on. This is a model that precisely reflects how the world should behave. This is exactly how governments should take serious action to address the effects of climate change. This is renewable energy. This is not polluting the environment, and this is transforming lives. That part of the country has been historically off-grid, has not been supplied through the national grid. Now you see the transformation that is taking place, also economically speaking, because households are now able to power their economic activity in all different sectors, including in agriculture, in water supply, in businesses. I'm singling out climate change precisely because it's a priority for the world, and it is through programs like this that we, as a community of nations around the globe, will be able to reverse the diverse effects of climate change. So Eritrea is setting the table on this, and the programs that we have seen, we believe, should be replicated in Eritrea, but also in other countries, as Eritrea has been able to do.
Mr. Yacoub, can you describe the launch ceremony of the cooperation framework from your point of view, and how did it go?
It went well. The launch took place, I believe, at the presidential office. It was presided over by the Ministry of Finance and National Development. It was attended by quite a number of senior government officials. Eritrea's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, who is also with us here this week, was also present, plus all the colleagues from the United Nations family, both, of course, the UN resident coordinator here, you know her very well, Ms. Kobi Sande, but also the heads of the UN agencies present in Eritrea. The regional team that we traveled with come from different UN organizations. I will try to remember all of them. It includes the Economic Commission for Africa. It includes the World Food Programme, the United Nations Development Programme, the World Health Organization, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Office of the High Commissioner for Refugees, the International Organization for Migration, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UN Habitat, and I may have missed one or two, but it's quite a large team. It's about 25 people who actually arrived here on Monday, and I think you have been seeing them moving around the capital, but also outside the capital. Thank you.
So what was your overall takeaway from the launch of the cooperation?
Serious commitment by the government of Eritrea to engage, to grow the partnership that already exists, but to take it to scale, and to also provide all the facilitation that is required to ensure the speedy and efficient implementation of these agreed programs in the different sectors. We did not find any resistance to the ideas or to the plans, because these have been jointly developed by the government and by the United Nations. So the launch comes at the very end of the process, because the work begins now. And everything that has been agreed in this framework is actually contributing to Eritrea's development vision that has already been adopted by the country. So ours is a role to, through this partnership, support the realization of that vision.
Okay. Mr. Yacoub, I want to remember what you've quoted, and you said, put the UN at work, let us work, and which Ms. Amma has quoted yesterday in the video that we've seen. So is that what we are to expect?
We want to be put to work for the benefit of the great people of Eritrea. Eritrea is a proud member of the United Nations. Eritrea is a proud African country. Eritrea is showing the way on development that it has devised according to its own context. The role of the United Nations is indeed to support that process, as it is all guided by the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And you know, the world is really very fast coming to the end of the process, at which we will see if we have been able to implement programs that will help countries achieve the sustainable development goals. So yes, we are ready to be put to work, and of course the presence and operations of the United Nations in Eritrea is upon the invitation of the government. The UN operates in countries, of course, in agreement with the government concerned, and in this case we have received all commitment from the government to create the space and the conditions to allow the UN agencies, funds and programs do their work, and collectively this work hopefully will contribute to the development vision of Eritrea.
Mr. Yacoub, at your speech with Dr. Girgish, you've mentioned that because you come from Sudan, you knew Eritrea when your parents came for their honeymoon here. So elaborate on that, and I would want you to tell us the story and perhaps a summary of all the cooperation framework that has been signed for our viewers.
It's my first time to visit Eritrea, but I have grown up in Sudan with Eritrean friends. We are one people in two countries. And as I mentioned at the launch, although it is my first time to visit Eritrea, I am not the first member of my family to do so. Why? Because in 1950, my parents came to Asmara on their honeymoon when they got married. So it started then, this relationship and this affinity. But it also started in Sudan, where both Sudanese and Eritreans live side by side. We, as I said, went to school together from primary school all the way to university at the University of Khartoum. I do have many Eritrean friends at the United Nations, but also outside the United Nations, and certainly in Sudan itself. So it's a great honor for me, both, of course, as a member of the United Nations family, to be coming at this particularly important moment as we launch this new ambitious cooperation framework, but also at the personal level, it's a great honor for me to finally be able to visit this country. I hope it is not going to be, let me rephrase, this is the first time I visit, but inshallah it will not be the last.
So I would like to know, how do you feel about Eritrea in general? Like, you've been here for 5 days, so I want to know like how you really feel.
There are many misperceptions about Eritrea. And being here for the last 5-6 days, we were given free space to actually interact with the government, with communities. We were given the freedom to move around, and that was quite important. Quite important for us also to understand the context in which development work is taking place in Eritrea, according to its own national vision. It is important also for us to have been here these few days so that we also become Eritrea's ambassadors to the United Nations and hopefully help change some of the narrative or some of the misperceptions that have been assigned or attached to Eritrea. There are many areas for joint cooperation, of course, and over the years I'm sure we will be able to help in this evolution. Eritrea is a nascent, new nation. It is building itself, so it's still at the stage of nation building, and the United Nations should provide all the support for one of its member countries to achieve that goal of nation building with respect to the choices made by the people of Eritrea, with readiness to strengthen the good practices, and with availability to bring whatever capacities the United Nations may be able to deploy here to help in that process. I know that there is also openness from the government of Eritrea that there may have been areas where the practice or the programs may not have been fully successful or correct. What was encouraging for us is also that there is no shying away from course correction when things are not working well. So this comes, I think, from a great sense of national confidence, that when you say, I may have done something wrong and it is possible for us to see how best we can do things right, that comes from a great sense of national confidence, which I think is highly commendable, which means also there are no fixed positions. If something is open for dialogue and discussion and agreement so that programs can be implemented in a different way or in a way that will have greater impact for the people, we sense that readiness was there. And that is quite encouraging for us as a system, as a United Nations system, but it's also quite important for us to carry this message out of Eritrea, hopefully with the possibility to help change some of the misperceptions that have been placed against or on Eritrea.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Yacoub, you are about to leave now. This is your fourth day, and tomorrow it'll be the end of your visit here to Eritrea. If you have any messages that you would like to convey to the people of Eritrea, to the UN family here, now is your time.
To the great people of Eritrea, at least those we have met in their communities, in Mendefera, in Areza. We also visited the two dams. We saw the huge accomplishments that have been realized by the people of Eritrea. Continue and keep doing what you're doing with that very strong national pride that you have shown us. And keep your head high always. The world will come to partner with you, and the world will be following you. This is your country. And it is the responsibility of us all, including at the United Nations, to support that very proud national vision that we have really witnessed and felt interacting with the people of Eritrea. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Yacoub. Dear viewers, that wraps up this week's Open Mic. It is good night from us.